I'm not too good. I can end up in the next person's shoes tomorrow. So what am I going to do to make a difference? For me, for my loved ones, for God. Welcome to the podcast. This is Testimony by Emmanuel. My name is Emmanuel, and this podcast is pretty much going to be about my testimony, my story through life. And I want God to be the center of it. That's why I named it Testimony. Because I want my story to give glory to God. I want to go ahead and hop into it. This is going to be the first episode. Today I want to talk about how when I was younger, this was actually one of my first lessons in life. When I was around 13, 14 years old, to kind of give you some context without going into too much detail, I was in foster care just for a short period of time at this point in my life, and I was like 13, 14 years old, and I was just having some troubles in my foster care house. It was nothing like personal, or it was nothing like anybody was out to get me or anything. Like I was having a hard time. The other people were having a hard time, so I actually ended up running away from foster care when I was like 14 years old, or around that age. And I was at this point, I wasn't full blown homeless. Like I hadn't been like living on the streets for years or anything like that, but I would sleep outside a lot. And this specific night, what I was doing is they would give you a bus ticket. They would give you like a bus pass. Like a public bus pass for foster kids and stuff. And so what I would do is, instead of like sleeping outside or something, I would use the bus pass and ride the bus, and that way I didn't have to sleep outside. And so I remember getting to this one bus stop, and I was waiting at the bus stop. It was probably like, at this point I had been riding the bus for a while, just hopping on and off, just so that, I didn't look suspicious or like I was like a homeless runaway kid, because, a lot of people would try to come up and talk to you and stuff. But I was waiting for the bus at this one particular bus stop, and it wasn't in like the best area or anything as well. It was late at night. It was like 1 a.m. Honestly, like it was just pitch black outside, just not really too sure, in the middle of the city, downtown of Miami. Not the beach area, but like inward town, like towards the like city area. But I actually fell asleep. I fell asleep at the bus stop, and I just remember this person coming up to me, and they woke me up. They just shook me, and like they just grabbed me and shook me, and they were like, "Hey kid, like what are you doing here? Like don't you know where you are? Like don't you know you're in a dangerous area? I could have like murdered you." And like, this is explicit stuff, but he was just saying like he could have done a world of things to me, and he could have did harm to me. I was in a vulnerable position, and I just remember like kind of just like staring at him, and he asked me like, "Do your parents know where you are?" Or like, "What are you doing?" And I just told him, like I was waiting for the bus stop, and that my family knows where I'm at. I'm just, waiting for the bus stop to get home. And he sat down and talked to me that night. And I want to say first off, like I am far from perfect. This podcast is about me not being perfect. This is about me being vulnerable and open and just genuine with y'all, which is like showing y'all my flaws. And I'm not gonna lie, like I have a hard time showing my flaws. Like I can communicate my flaws with you, but it's still very hard for me. But I want to be as like authentic as possible, and I want to tell y'all like I'm not perfect, and that's pretty much one of the first lessons. Like that's pretty much what this lesson that I'm talking about is about how I'm not perfect. So he shook me up, and we were talking, and he sat down next to me, and he began talking to me about how he was homeless for 20 years, He had been homeless, sleeping on the streets and stuff. And he sat down and talked to me and said that when he was a kid, he had all these huge dreams. He had big dreams with his family members and with his mom and stuff. And the thing is that he pretty much said, like, he had a lot of hardships in life, and a lot of things happened to him where he stopped chasing his dream. Like, his family members started to pass away, his brother passed away, his mom passed away, and it was pretty much just him at that point. So he gave up on his dreams, and at that point he stopped working towards them, and he ended up homeless for 20 years. And pretty much what that taught me is that no matter who you are in life, no matter if you have big dreams, no matter if you have resources, no matter if you are smart, whatever the case may be, no matter how good I think I am, if I stop working towards my dreams and I allow myself to fail, I can stay like that for 20 plus years. I'm not too good. At that point, I was 14. I was already sleeping on the streets. All right. This man was, he was older. He was way older. And he had been sleeping on the streets for 20 plus years. So if I decide at 14 years old that I'm going to give up and I'm going to just sleep on that park bench, or not even give up, but if I just decide that I'm not going to do anything different that changes my situation, then I will be stuck there for the rest of my life. Like, nobody's coming to save me. And what that allowed me to realize, I'm not too good that it can't happen to me. I never believed that it can't happen to me. I always believed that if it's possible, if it's something if it's real life, if it's something that's real, then it can happen to me as well if I don't prepare or prevent or work towards making a difference in that situation. If I would have stayed on those, if I would have just kept sleeping on park benches, I would have ended up homeless for 10, 20 years. There's no difference between me and him. There's no difference between me and you. There's no difference between me and the next person. I'm never too good to be like, oh, I will never end up in that person's shoes. I recognize that I can end up in that person's shoes. So what I'm going to do is everything in my power to make sure that doesn't happen. And I'm not looking down on that man. He purposefully taught me a lesson saying, hey man, like, what are you doing here? You need to change, or else you're going to be stuck on the streets for 20 years. And I feel like a lot of people, I feel like in my life I've been certain points where I thought something like that could never happen to me. I thought I was too cool. I was just extremely arrogant. I just had all the wrong things, it was just pride, ego. I just was like very like not humbled. And I guess I just thought I was better than homeless people. I thought I was better than drug addicts. I thought I was better than people that go through those kind of things. I just never thought that could happen to me. And then when it looked at me in the face, like when I was face to face with the struggles and with the situations, I realized like I'm not better than anybody. These situations can happen to me if I don't do anything to prevent it. It doesn't matter. Like, honestly, it really, for me, it doesn't matter how much money you have. I feel like if you're making the wrong decisions, if you're behaving poorly, if you're just either blowing your money or just being extremely, just doing the wrong things, you can end up homeless in a heartbeat. It really is not. It doesn't take that much, And homeless is a big thing. I like it. Homeless is an extreme situation. It's an extreme scenario. But that was literally my personal experience, is like looking homelessness in the face and being like, what am I going to do to make a difference in my life? What am I going to do to make sure that this doesn't happen to me? Because if I don't do something, this is going to happen to me. I am not too good that situations like this can't happen to me, that I can't end up in the next person's shoes. And that's with anything in life, I try to, and what that did for me is that it installed it installed where I began to make changes in my life. It installed something in me that's like, okay, I want to make a difference for myself and for my loved ones, and it's not going to just happen. Of course, there's blessings and God moves, and there's things that we have nothing to do a part of. There's things that we don't have anything a part of, and they're just blessings and good things to us. But it's also like, where can I play my part in working and making sure that, and making a difference? Where can I play my part in making a difference? So, my mindset was always like dreaming of bigger things. I was sleeping on a park bench when I was 14 years old, like I said. But the thing is that I was always dreaming of having my own home. I was always dreaming of having my own place. And not only was I dreaming, I was praying about it. I was reading my Bible. I was changing my behaviors. I was making sacrifices. I was changing, like I said, I was changing myself. I was working towards it. I was coming up with a plan with God on how I'm going to get out of these situations. I mean, I didn't have to do much, but I just had to do the basics. Make a plan, pray about it, talk about it, work towards it. And, God blessed everything else, and he supported me along the whole way. Thank you, God. It got pretty bad, and it got pretty dark, and I've been through a lot of stuff, but I never felt alone. I always felt like I had help. I always felt like I was supported. I always felt like I was loved. And those things, even if it doesn't help you physically, like, even though I didn't get $1,000 check or whatever, and randomly, it still motivated me to keep pushing forward, to keep moving forward. And sometimes it just takes those little bursts of motivation to keep pushing forward, But yeah, that man, he talked to me, and the lesson was that I'm not too good to be in the next person's shoes. Never look down on someone. Always realize that if you don't make a difference or a change in my life, if I don't make a difference or a change in my life, I can end up in the next person's shoes in a heartbeat, in the next day, And so, how am I gonna hate on them? How am I gonna look down on them if that could be me? That could be me. You know what I'm saying? But just try to make a difference. Don't think that you're too good that stuff can't happen to you. So in that matter, with that fact, make a difference. Prepare. Prevent. My papa always said, poor performance always comes from poor preparation. So if you don't wanna struggle in life, if you don't wanna be going through the hard things in life, which sometimes are inevitable, and I'm not saying that every situation is the same, but for me, I had to make a difference. I had to change. I had to do something different in my life. I couldn't do the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. Or I couldn't be so naive that I think that those things can't happen to me to begin with, where I just avoid the thought of it. I embrace the struggles. I look towards them, and I try to learn from them, and I try to find a way to motivate myself. Like I said, I'm not perfect, but that was one of my first lessons, and it helped me go so far. It is pretty much the foundation of everything for me, is that I don't believe bad things can't happen to me. So I want to do my best. to prepare. I think it helps me see the truth. I think it helps me see reality for what it is. And then it allows me to make better decisions based off that. Thank y'all so much for listening to my first lesson in life. Thank God for making this possible. There's so many things in life that try to get in your way, that try to become an obstacle or challenge you or make things hard, try to either physically, emotionally, spiritually, financially, relationships. There's just so many things that can get in the way. But I just thank God for making it possible where I was able to do this podcast right here. And I know that this seems like a high production, or maybe it doesn't. And I'm trying not to be so perfect. I'm trying to allow y'all to see my flaws. It's hard. I want to look good in front of the camera. I want to look presentable. I want to be presentable. But I feel like it's important for me to be myself, so that y'all can truly understand my situation and who I am and what God has done for me, and it hasn't always been this good. It's also not perfect yet or at all. Definitely came a long way from sleeping on that park bench. And there's still things that I struggled with back then. We aim and strive for progression and correction, not for perfection. I'm not perfect, but I've made a lot of changes. I've made a lot of progression. I've made a lot of progress through my journey. And I continue to learn. I continue to do my best when I can, and I never stop learning. I never stop learning, and that's pretty much how I got here. Was by listening to that homeless guy who pulled me aside and said, "Hey man, you need to change. You don't want to end up like me." I had big dreams. I had family, but I didn't work towards my goals. I allowed life's hardships to get to me, and I ended up here, and I listened to that man, and sometimes you have to listen to the small guy. It's not always the person that's the loudest in the room that has the most wisdom. Sometimes it's the homeless man. I wish I knew his name. I wish I knew his name so I didn't have to label him as the homeless man, because he changed my life forever by teaching me that I'm not too good. I can end up in the next person's shoes tomorrow. So what am I going to do to make a difference? For me, for my loved ones, for God. And thank y'all so much for joining me on this podcast. Welcome. If you enjoyed the conversation, and if you enjoyed hearing my testimony, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and share this with a friend. Yeah, I hope y'all have a great day. Peace out.